Yeah, looks like there is some problem. I'm just setting it up, guys. Give me a minute. Yeah. Cool, sorted. Fair enough, guys. Hello, everyone. So, a very warm welcome to one and all present in our uh, introduction to data science class. So, we are now talking about the different strategies in which how the data science will be used. So, we've started this particular stream. And we will be discussing here how and why data science are used, what are the prominent keywords and everything. So feel free to interact, guys. So pretty much it's a live session. So if you have any questions, anything during the discussion, whatever I'm talking about, please feel free to put up your things in the chat and we shall be more than happy to take that. Okay. So we're going to wait for like a couple of more minutes till the time we are able to see people coming up. So let's wait for like 2, 3 more minutes before we can start. Right. So anything, guys, whatever you feel about data science, any burning questions which you want me to answer it right away, please shoot it and then we can take it up likewise. But we're going to wait for like a couple of more minutes max and then we're going to be starting with our session. Yeah. Well, I hope people have started joining in. Guys, just give me a hi or hello in the chat if you're there with us. So we'll be understanding whether you are with us or not. So just give me hi or hello in the chat. So it's pretty much a live session, guys. So as I was mentioning, if any questions, anything which you want me to answer straight away, please let me know so I can take it up before even starting the session. But I think now it's the right time. So let's start and we'll start discussing about our agenda for the day, which is basically in giving an introduction to data science. What is that buzzword and why are we using it, and what does it comprise of? So how we can say now this is the right time that we can get into data science, and what is data science? What are we exactly expecting us to do here in data science, right? So all of these parts. So all the basic related questions which people are asking whenever you're trying to either make a switch or going to start your career afresh in either ways, there is a question of what is data science, right? So am I really going into the right direction or I'm just following the buzzword around me, right? So either ways. So let's try to understand that and let's try to figure out how and why data science is important and ultimately what is an objective behind this and how we're going to use data science for our purpose. Okay. So with this, let's start. So right now on your screen, the topic for today's discussion is basically giving you an overview of data science, more like an introduction towards data science. So that's basically what we will be doing today. But now I'll be talking about myself. So who am I? My name is Arpit Jain. And the only reason I'm here with you because data science is my passion and I really love sharing my expertise with people. So, what do I mean by this? So, I'll tell you a brief about my profile as well. So, I've been working as a data science professional for close to 10 years now into varied industries, starting from a finance sector, then into a cloud domain. I was also part of manufacturing, automobiles, and for past like so many years, I'm with the telecommunication industry, and I've seen the usages of data and how data is getting perforated in different industries, and how we are taking benefit of this data from different industries, and how exactly we are trying to optimize the results and what exactly we're trying to do with this data. And from the skills perspective, I'm well versed with the data science latest tools in tech that includes machine learning, deep learning, Python, Spark, big data, Hadoop, Hive, SQL. So whatever you can think of, I've been working with that. And also, I'm one of the person who's taking care of the solution from end to end. That is where the core definition of a problem starts till the time we are going to deploy the model at the end. So more like working as a solution architect. So that's a brief about myself. And yes, sharing expertise is my passion. I really like doing that. And I really love what I do. That is the reason why I'm with you guys. So feel free to interact. Let's try to understand each other well and we'll talk about it. I could see a couple of people in our chat today also. Hey, hello, Akash. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, no, I think you have a question as well. You say, what is the major difference between data analytics or data scientist? Okay. See, data analytics is a field, right? So data analytics, that's where a field where you're trying to do some analysis on data, right? Rather, on the other hand, data scientist is a designation, right? Data scientist is where I'm going to say, okay, this is the person who is responsible to take out the science from the data, more like of that perspective, right? So data analytics or data scientist is actually not the right comparison, to be honest. So data analytics is basically a division, right? So or a vertical where the analysis of data happens. And this data analytics division can be in multiple industries as well. So wherever you're part of, whether you're a part of a telecom industry or you're part of an insurance sector or a healthcare sector or whatever different sector does not really matter. So wherever you work, you have the data with you. And I hope everybody will agree with me on this, right? I hope you agree with me this on, right? So data is practically everywhere, right? So every industry will have this data analytics division where the analysis on data will be happening, right? And on that, in that division, there will be multiple different designated people who have their own set of responsibilities working together to have the final business output. And those people could be called as a business analyst or a data analyst, not data analytics. Data analyst, data scientist, business analyst, product analyst, risk analyst, fraud analyst, or senior analyst, or only analyst, or we can also talk about data engineers. So a lot of different designations, I would say, different areas in which people really try to put their effort on. So during our course of discussion, that is the pure objective of this playlist. So to give you clarity of what exactly data science is, right? And what do we do? What are the different designations? How can we shape up our career here, right? So that is the reason why we have come up with this particular module where now we'll be talking about how and why data science is important for me, right? So that is pretty much what the objective of this session is. And we'll be taking the discussion likewise. So I hope I did answer your question, Anu. Please, likewise, feel free to ask your questions, and I'll be more than happy to take that. Okay. And that's again a brief introduction about myself, guys. So more than happy to take your question. Likewise, I'm following in the chat. Cool. So let's proceed. Today's agenda is purely simple enough. We are only going to talk about what is data science. So what are we expected to do in data science? What are the different things which you might need at this stage of your career to understand about the data science? A lot of skills are there, and what are we going to do? What are different prospects of things? So all of this is pretty much what we will be discussing about today's agenda. So we'll be discussing what exactly is data science likewise. Okay, so let's start. And even before starting, I want to start the session with a very famous quote. So for a data scientist or any person who is belonging to the data analytics industry or a data science industry, so in the end, we are only concerned what you should only measure and look at the numbers that drive action, meaning that the data tells you what you should do next. So we always talk about in the end, we are going to look at the numbers that are actionable drivers for my business. So meaning that the data which we have is going to tell us what next, right? So instead of taking like a pure old school method, that's where somebody's guts feeling, and then that is where we're going to take a business decision. No. So data analytics, the numbers. So ultimately, in the data field, we are talking about some information, some actionable insights, some numbers which are actually helping us drive some action. And in the end, what we as an analyst look at or measure the numbers that are going to help us drive some action. Yes. So in industries, data could be in multiple different types. So we're talking about qualitative data, we're talking about quantitative data. Again, qualitative data is basically some kind of definition or something, or some kind of string values. Like, for example, I say my favorite holiday destination is, say, hill station. It's an information, but there's no number involved here. Likewise, when I say what is my height, what is my weight, there is some number involved there. So both of these are different sort of information, a data for me. So for an analyst, it's not about only the number. We talk about the data, which is important, but yes, at the time of our analysis, we we try to convert these adjective information into some sort of numbers by some techniques in the background, and ultimately those numbers are going to help us drive some action. So how does that happen, guys? So here, when we talk about the industrial aspects, we are looking at the data which are useful. So we talk about the useful information or maybe a stagnant information. So the moment I'm solving any business problem in industry, any business problem, take about any data, any business case, any business problem. So whenever we start analyzing our data, we have n number of different feature sets which we look at. For example, column one, column two, or different aspects of information. Do you think all of them are really important for us? Or who tells us? Who tells this, like, what is important to me? Right? Ultimately, it is the information which is hidden inside the data which we are trying to capture. And the science behind this, so the science behind capturing or getting this hidden information from a bunch of or a pool of data which we have, that is what the science of data is, or a data science is, right? So we're trying to understand at the end the numbers which are going to help us drive some action. And trust me, guys, I'm going to tell you this: data was always present. Data was always there since day one. Since ancient ages, we always had the data, but we did not have the mechanism, we did not have, I would say, the right tool sets to store, to process, and to read this data. We did not have this mechanism. And this mechanism has recently evolved, and that is the reason why now people are trying to understand the importance of data. And that is where now at the end, these data are helping the business take some actionable insights. That is where now this data is going to tell us what you should do next in your business, not your gut feeling. Right? So we're going to take some actionable insights based on what analysis we have done on the data. Right? So I'll give you a very open example. So what do I mean by this? Very simple use case, and very proportionate use case, also very active on the social media. So for example, I'm working for a bank. Okay. I'm working for a bank, and I'm trying to find out who are the potential customers in my entire user base probable to do a fraud if they have taken a loan. Very simple use case. So being a bank executive, I want to find out the person who is most probable to go for a fraud, like who will do the fraud with the bank in case he or she has taken the loan, right? So yes, with the sort of analysis, we can find out based on finding out some interesting patterns that yes, maybe customer 1 or customer 10 or customer 21, whatever their IDs is, whatever their name is, they are having the higher potentials to fraud, to do the fraud in the business. It could happen. Yes, it could happen. But what do we need in this case is once we have flagged these customers to the bank executives, now the bank is having the power. Can you realize that the bank is having the power saying that, okay, I know the customer 1 or the customer 10 is probable to do the fraud. I can rather take some decision, take some steps to help avoid that. We can do it, right? So yes, likewise, in any business, if we know the things which is going to happen, or if we know the right set of pattern or a root cause or a problem statement behind anything, then we are on the driving seat. Then we know what we should be doing next, right? And from where it is coming, it is purely coming from the analysis which we are doing on the data. And yes, that is where the whole science, the bigger umbrella which you can see here, everything what you can think of, the science of getting this actionable, driving things from your numbers is pretty much what data science is, right? I hope it makes sense to everybody, guys. Any questions, anything in understanding the concept of data science is basically a field, or I would say an art or a science where you are able to extract the rightful information from the available pool of data by doing some sort of analysis and helping the business take some actionable insights based on those numbers. You are helping the business, or you're helping your industry or your business to drive forward, right? So you're giving them the right set of information based on which ultimately there will be some actionable insights, and in turn you'll be benefiting your business. So that's basically what data science is, guys. So what we're talking about here in this case, data science is the domain of study that deals with the vast volume of data. So as I've told you, so data science here by default, it talks about the data, right? And the data in current time, it's so huge, it's so humongous that every single moment you'll be seeing a new data point is getting generated, right? So yes, you will be seeing that every single moment a new data point is getting generated, and we are now able to see that once we have generated this data, now we have to actually make sure that we are able to analyze the data also equally well. So data science is that domain which is going to deal with volumes of data. And what do you mean by the vast volumes of data? It is very subjective term, very subjective. And that is where we talk about the big data. That is where we talk about something called as big data. When I talk about the vast volumes, it is very subjective. So I'll give you a very brief example. If you would have used Excel by now, the moment you start opening a file in Excel, which is more than 200-300 MB of the file, this will not even open. This will not open the whole file. Excel starts misbehaving, right? So for an Excel, maybe 200, 300 MB, or maybe say 1 GB of a file is in big data, because that volume Excel cannot process. Agree? So that volume of data Excel cannot process. So for an Excel kind of an environment, maybe 1 GB of data is a big data. And then when we talk about some other platforms like Python or some maybe traditional data science frameworks on Python, maybe 4 or 5 GBs of data is fine to process. But and then again, there's a concept called as Spark. That is where maybe hundreds of GBs of data can be processed. So whatever environment you are in, that is going to define what is exactly the big data for you, right? So we have to make sure that we have to understand big data or the vast volumes of data with respect to our environment we are in. Okay, so don't get really troubled by the term called as big data. It is very subjective. right? Big data is nothing but a data which is too much to handle for the current environment where I'm in. As simple as that, right? So yes, so data science is the domain where we will be studying how to deal with this vast volumes of data, because processing, say, 5 MB or 10 MB of Excel file is very simple. We can simply drag, drop things, and we can do things, everything easily, right? But the moment this data size increases, that's where the complexity starts arising. Right? That's where the problems start arising. That is where we try to see how exactly this can be used for our purpose now. So how exactly we can use this vast volumes of data for our processing. So that is where again data science comes into picture, and we will be talking about how this domain, which is data science, helping us to deal with this vast volumes of data. Okay. Also, data science is going to use the modern tools and techniques. So modern tools and techniques is again a keyword for me. Helps find the unseen patterns, derive the meaningful information, and make the business decisions. Very, very, very good point, guys. So what does that mean? So this data science industry here, it is going to use the modern tools and techniques. What do I mean by the modern tools and techniques? So data science, first of all, is a pure research field. It's an evolving field, right? So every now and then you might be hearing some new keywords coming into picture, right? So modern tools and techs, which is really advanced, and we're trying to use the latest technologies and the tools based on which we are going to find some unseen patterns from our data. So end objective is what? End objective is whatever data we have to understand what does that mean, isn't it? So my end objective is always to find out the the hidden information which is available inside my data. So how this data is going to be used for a meaningful business decision. So whatever data I have, with the help of the modern tools and techniques, we're going to find out some unseen patterns. And those unseen patterns will eventually help drive some meaningful business decisions for my industry. Okay, so that is basically what data science industry is. And in fact, there are a lot of latest tools and tech. You might be hearing the buzzwords: Tableau, Power BI, machine learning, again a skill, deep learning, Python, SQL, big data, cloud. All are some fancy different tools and techniques available under data science. So data science is a bigger umbrella, guys. It's a bigger umbrella. It comprises of multiple different subsections. Yes, we being an analyst, we being as a data science guy, we are expected to somehow be comfortable with maybe not all of them, but at least we have to understand what is my priority depending on what role we want to get into, right? So there are a lot of keywords, and it is practically inhuman from people, everyone, to expect to be good in everything. That is not possible. If you become good in everything, you'll become actually superhuman, right? So that is again practically not possible, right? So, but yes, the data science as a bigger umbrella, we do talk about the very different modern tools and technologies. And out of these list of tools and technologies, depending on what role or what profile or what area you want to specialize in or you want to get into, we're going to have to prioritize few tools and techniques, and then eventually with the help of this, respective of my tools and technique, the end objective would still be to find out some interesting patterns available from my data, help the business take some informative decisions, right? At the last, the data used for analysis can come from many different sources and presented in various formats. Very, very, very important point again, guys. So it can come from many different sources and presented in various formats. What do we mean by that? Okay. Very, very, very important point, guys. So when I say the data, how do you think the data comes? Do you think it is just like you're gonna say, okay, I'm gonna work on some problem statement, and you'll have the data with you on day one. Never happens like that, right? So the data in any industry can be present in different sources, from different sources. Just for an example, any business by default has the data stored in some sort of databases. You might have thought of the databases, and that databases again are of different types. You talk about structured data, we talk about unstructured data, and again, even in that, we have different types of databases, data sources, right? That is one primitive data source from a database. And even in that database, I'm talking about multiple different subtypes, correct? Next, you can think of data coming from maybe a web page. I can, maybe there is some website from where I want to extract some information. Yes, there could be another source. That data could be coming from that source. Or maybe there could be a video feed which is coming up, like CCTV camera. Your CCTV camera is storing you the video footages. That is again a source of information, a different source of data which you're analyzing. Yes, here the data is in a video feed, but again, a data, right? So some sort of information is your data. So practically, again, even this is your data, right? So, or maybe you can think of certain images, like you're clicking some photos, your photo is getting uploaded on a Google Drive or a iCloud. Again, a source. And again, if you would have realized different formats, right? It is not necessary that it is always going to be an Excel file or a CSV file. It could be in a different varied formats. It could be a text file also, or it could be an image file, or it could be a video file, it could be an audio file. So even in those, we'll have subtypes, right? So all of these are some or the other way important, and we have to understand that we have to make sure that we are able to process the data coming from different sources and also in various formats. Yes, obviously, our use cases will be varying. Suppose I'm going to say that I'm going to analyze the CCTV footages coming uh, in any place, right? I'm going to analyze the CCTV footages. So what sort of skill I'm focusing on there? So the skill which I'm actually focusing on here is nothing but my video analytics field, right? So, and again, this area is going to be under some subsection. Or if I talk about something from a textual information, like I'm going to analyze maybe a tweet, somebody's tweet, like whether that tweet is a positive tweet or a negative tweet, right? Yeah. Or I'm going to do a face detection. So I'm going to take an image, and that image I'm going to find out, okay, this is that person. Or maybe a simple classification problem, like any simple fraud or not fraud kind of a case. So I could have data coming from different sources. It is very subjective. Multiple different places can actually be generating the data. Data generators could be different. I could have the data coming from different places, and also at the same time different formats. So always keep this in mind. The data science is not only the Excel files. Okay. I could have data in different formats from different sources, and being an analyst, I should be ready to take up these information and definitely modify the things accordingly so that I can process this information. Right, so I do have a question from Shiva Reddy here. Hi, sir. Can you please tell me the roadmap to become a data scientist? Very good question, Shiva Reddy. Again, so that that is what we are trying to understand here, actually. So to become a data scientist, as I've told you also in the class, so basically we're trying to understand first of all what are my skill sets. See, ultimately, it's about your skills, right? If you're skilled enough, you will be able to become a data scientist. But ultimately, what skills to prioritize at what time and what stage, that is what we are trying to understand it from this part. Okay. So right I would say that there are a lot of keywords like Python, statistics, machine learning, SQL, big data, Hadoop, Hive, Tableau, Power BI. But with time, we'll be discussing on this. To become a data scientist, I would say yes. Out of all of this, we might need to prioritize certain skills, maybe certain on the coding part. We can focus on Python, SQL. From the technology part, we can focus on statistics, machine learning, and machine learning by default involves deep learning as well. And again, in that we have multiple subsections. We're going to talk about images, videos, text. A lot of different things are there, right? So to answer your question, ideal way to become a data scientist, like a roadmap. My roadmap is purely focused on skills, like what all different skills in what all sequence you will be learning eventually to become a data scientist. Okay. And that is what this playlist will be covering up. So we will be discussing on those skills, the core skills. But trust me, Shiva Reddy, apart from the technical skills as well, this industry is prominently demanding you to have a good communication skill as well. And I hope you agree with me on this. So it's not about only developing the best of the best analytics, but you have to make sure that you are able to communicate, you are able to pass on this information to the business where they actually can take some actionable decisions on this. So you have to again somehow sell yourself to the business, right? So whatever you have done, whatever analysis you have performed, you have to make sure that this is communicated in the best way possible going ahead, right? So again, this is what do we have right now, but I hope you are able to get the point. But again, from the skills perspective, we will be discussing in detail about what all things. But again, obviously, SQL, Python, statistics, machine learning could be our priorities here. We can focus on these areas first, and then anything additional on top of this will become my advantage. Okay, hope that answers your question, Shiva. Is there any free resources to learn that is skills which are essential to become data scientists? There are a lot of such resources. I mean, yes, they'll not be structured, obviously. So what happens in the free resource is basically you will not get a structured way, right? So I can tell you the keywords, like for example, SQL you can learn Python, you can learn statistics, you can learn machine learning. But again, in each of these topics, there are a lot of subtopics as well, right? So you might not find a structured way or a structured course which is free of cost covering every single thing in a detailed step-by-step fashion, right? Maybe I'm not aware of that if it is there, but I think YouTube will be your best guess. So try to browse around in this and try to figure out wherever you feel comfortable with. But again, your end objective should be to find out the skills which can be used. Okay, cool. So now let's try to understand what is a prominent data science life cycle. Again, a very, very, very important point. So how does a life cycle of a data science actually works, right? So very first thing which we talk about in the data science is capturing. The very first step, the very first stage of a data science problem statement is capture. And that is where we talk about the data acquisitions, data entry, signal reception, data extraction. So this stage involves gathering the raw structured and the unstructured data. So in industries, there is nothing called as the data where we just go and then just have a copy paste and things are available. It does not work like that. So data science industry, we are talking about the very first stage where we have to make sure that we actually capture the data. The very first stage is data capturing or data gathering. So in this stage, we talk about how we are going to do the data acquisition, how we're going to do the data extraction. As I've told you, there are a lot of different sources from where we can get this data. Like for example, a simple case, you might be seeing people doing a data entry job. So what these people are doing, there is some offline papers, like you fill up some survey or you fill up some form, right? Ultimately, that form is getting uploaded online. Like like from an e format, right, on a computer. That is again a data entry. So you're making a data entry manually. Some human is making this data entry from an offline format. Again, it's a sort of information. So whatever this data entry is happening, it's going to be used. It can be used for a future job. Likewise, data extraction or data acquisition, data extraction. I'm talking about a website. Suppose I'm going talking about any news website. So from all of these news websites, I want to extract the headlines, or maybe a weather website. I want to extract the weather information, like weather parameters every single day, which can be extracted. It's not explicitly available, but yes, available in some or the other way. But from there, we have to extract it. And for this extraction, obviously there will be some mechanism, either some direct tool available, or maybe we need to do some sort of extraction coding on top of that. Yes, so there will be some mechanism which will help us to do this data extraction job as well. So likewise, data acquisition. So this stage, the very first stage of a data science life cycle, is prominently where we talk about how exactly we can use this data, or I mean, how exactly we can gather this raw or the raw structured or the unstructured data. So where this structured here means anything which is in the form of rows and columns, or unstructured, anything which is not in the form of rows and columns. Maybe an image, or maybe a text file, maybe a log file, maybe an audio file or video frame, anything which is not in the format of rows and columns like a table, that is my unstructured data. So as I've told you, all of these are information for me, whether it is a video feed or whether it is an image file, all of this are important for me, right? So the stage which involves the gathering of this raw, structured, and the unstructured data is pretty much called capturing stage. Maintain. The next stage of my data science life cycle is maintain. Now, once we have gathered this raw, structured, and the unstructured data, we will try to now maintain this whatever we have. Now we're talking about storage of it. So data warehousing, data cleansing, data staging, data processing, data architecture. So this stage more or less covers taking the raw data and putting it in a form that can be used. So what do we mean by that? Here, what are we doing is we are prominently looking at the stage which is going to help us now somehow store this data, giving us a platform where we can do some cleansing, some data processing, and ultimately going to take some benefit out of it. Yeah, because what is my end objective, guys? Again, remember this. My still the end objective is from whatever data I have to make sure that I'm going to take the benefit of it, right? So this stage is prominently going to cover how this raw data can be put into summary format can be used. Okay? So the data warehousing, the data cleansing, the data staging, the data processing, this is pretty much what do we talk about here in the maintain phase. So whatever we have captured from my first phase, which is the data collection phase, the data gathering phase, now we are going to talk about maintenance of the same thing, whatever we have done. So the data warehousing, the data cleansing, the data staging, the data processing, all of these fancy terminologies pretty much being part of my maintain. That is where the end objective is. By doing whatever we do, we are trying to make sure that this raw data can be put into the right format where it can be used for further actionable things. right? So the next stages are process, analyze, and communicate. Let's try to understand them one by one. So process. Again, a very fancy terminology is coming up here. So we're going to talk about the data mining, data modeling, data summarization. So data mining, again, what do we mean by this data mining here? Data mining, at the end of the day, is a technique which is going to help us draw some actionable insights. When I say that, my objective is to find out some actionable insights. So data mining comprises of all of those sub activities or some steps or the techniques or the tools which will be used eventually to process my data which I have, and at the end helping us understand the hidden information what I have from the data. So process phase is basically where at the end we are trying to do the processing of my data by doing the data mining. This also involves data modeling. So data modeling at the end of the day is pure into my machine learning part. That is where we are trying to put up some equation, we're trying to put up some evaluation between my different data patterns, and based on this, how my particular output would look like. Or we also talk about the data summarization, like what are some quick descriptors of my data? Like, for example, we can talk about some standard deviation as a numerical method, about mean, median, minimum value, maximum value, some percentile values, right? So I'm trying to summarize my data into some quick snippets, which is now helping us understand what does that mean internally. Again, that's where the data processing comes into picture. The next phase is analyze. Again, a very important phase. Analyze, that is where we're trying to do some exploratory or confirmatory analysis. We're trying to make some predictive models, and we're talking about some fancy text mining qualitative analysis. So this stage involves performing the various analysis on the data. That is where we're going to be talking about some advanced analytics. So we know that, okay, we have identified some hidden patterns. So what next? What next? Okay, we know what if, say, maybe age plays an important role in terms of identifying a person whether he's going to do a fraud or not. What next? Am I going to make a predictive model, or am I going to perform some confirmatory analysis? So this phase, analyze phase, is like the next step to my process phase. So in the process phase, we talked about establishing some hidden information from the data. And in the analyze phase, we talk about using these hidden patterns to, to do some predictive modeling, to do some advanced confirmatory exploratory analysis, and then basically with this, helping business take some actionable insights. So this stage is going to involve performing performance of various advanced analysis on my data, right? And at the end, you can see the communicate, which is, I would say, without this, everything is of no use, right? So in the data science industry, we always talk about communication. So what exactly this communication means? So this communication is where we try to tell people, we try to understand the requirement, and whatever we have built up, whatever we have now seen as my pattern, and whatever we have seen as a predictive model which is there in the system which we have built up, how, how exactly business is going to be used on top of that, right? And that is where a concept of communicate comes into picture. And how does this communicate helps? So this stage prominently involves my data reporting, data visualization, business intelligence, decision making. So we talk about some charts, we talk about some graph. So whatever analysis being an analyst being like a techie guy we have done, we have to just convert the same information into a real-time business where this can be consumed by the business. So in the business, there might not be a technical person who can understand your Python codes. Rather, we try to summarize our results in a much, much, much better way and try to communicate this with the business so that it becomes very handy and very useful for them, and it'll become easier for them to take some decision. And that is where we talk about the data reporting. There are a lot of fancy data reporting tools and data visualization or a business intelligence tools which you might have heard of, which includes Tableau, Power BI, and some of our free sources as well, like Kibana, Grafana. A lot of things, a lot of different things are there in terms of the tools which I can talk about. But this particular section, this particular step of my data science problem is where we say that we have to make sure the right things are prepared and the analysts are able to share the information in pretty much a readable format to the business, which could be a chart, which could be a graph, or anything. So ultimately, we are going to communicate these results in the form of data reporting or a data visualization. Yes, this will also need some sort of skills. So, and if you would have realized in all of these different sections, so be it in the very first phase, which is like the data gathering, even in the gathering phase, we have certain skills which is required. We talk about the data extraction. So maybe we can talk about Python here as a skill, like a coding skill, or simple Excel as the skill which is required. So every single stage will actually be expecting you to have some or the other sort of skill development needed. So capture stage, we talk about the data acquisition, we talk about data extraction. So Python, Excel might play an important role here. Yes, then we talk about the data maintenance. That is where we talk about database knowledge. We can talk about SQL. We can talk about data warehousing. So again, these prominently becomes my important skills at this stage. Again, it's not about whether I am supposed to do this maintenance work or somebody else will be doing the maintenance work for me. It's a team, right? So data science problem statements get solved by a team. So, but what I'm talking about here is what are my different skills which might be required when I'm solving a data science problem in different stages. Yes. So we will be solving a problem within the team. It depends purely on the organization as well. But respective to each and every stages, so Python, Excel here in the capturing stage, maintenance stage, maybe we can talk about database, SQL, data warehousing. Processing, we have the data mining. So again, we can talk about Python. We can talk about statistics here. Again, we can talk about data mining knowledge. So all of these again might prominently come under the processing phase. So Python is again becoming my important skill. Then we talk about analyze stage. We talk about Python, definitely. We talk about statistics, definitely. We talk about now machine learning, and we also talk about by default deep learning as well. That is nothing but AI/ML. So with the help of these skill sets, we will prominently be able to analyze the data in a much. At the last, when we talk about communicate, we can talk about some BI tools. It might include Tableau, Power BI. These are the prominent ones, but again, there are a few other tools as well. And then we talk about, again, Python can be used here. So Python visualization also would be helpful. So Python is a very flexible language, guys. So Python will be helping you to perform a lot of different activities in data science. So we will be anyway studying that. But BI tools like Tableau, Power BI, or maybe even Python would play an important role here in your communication part. So overall, this is how the data science life cycle would look like, guys, right? And this is what our data science guy does, right? Obviously, in the data science as a big umbrella, as I told you, multiple subdomains are there, multiple sub areas are there. So we still talk about how we can be using these informations one by one. Great. So this is practically what a data science is. So with this, we are done with today's discussion, guys. I'm more than happy to take any questions. So feel free to reach out. I'm still following up the chat. Any questions, guys? Let's take up your questions. But I hope you are able to understand what I was about to say. So we primarily talked about why data science, what is data science, and what exactly is driving my data science. So data science, as we discussed, we talked about a field which is prominently working on data. And with the help of the latest tools and techniques, we are able to process this vast volumes of data, helping the business take some actionable insights by identifying some hidden patterns. And yes, we also discussed about the data science life cycle that involves the collection of data being my prime importance first. And then we talked about how we're going to store this, maintain it, process it, analyze it, and then at the end, communicate it. So this is how a data science journey looks like, right? And eventually, all different stages need to have the different skills. And likewise, we're going to prioritize the skills depending on which area you are going to expertise on. So all the questions are welcome, guys. Let's wait for a couple of minutes. I'm going to wait. If there's any question, I'll be more than happy to answer it, or else we can wrap it up. Any questions, guys? Cool. Okay. So seems like people are fine. Please feel free to reach out to us. So we will be continuing with our discussion here. So we will be going from ground root level. So following up, there'll be a few more videos coming up. So please stay tuned, guys, and do subscribe to the channel. If you have anything, what you want to discuss, I'll be more than happy to take it up. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and looking forward to you all for the next video. So just to give you a heads up, so we are starting up a playlist where we will be discussing about how exactly we can use this data science information, and that pretty much going to be covering from 6 to 7 every Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. For the next couple of weeks, we are going to be talking about section on data science. Cool, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening to us. See you in the next video.